Do you feel like God has something bigger than what you're experiencing right now? Do you think God has something better than what you're experiencing right now? There's something inside of you that is saying, I just know that I was made for something more than this. Well, that's the story of Joseph. Joseph, as a young man, was called by God to become a great leader. But he had so many strikes against him. It's amazing. He was a Hebrew. There were only a few Hebrews in the whole world. The world was dominated by Egyptians, not Hebrews. They were nobody. They were nothing. They were shepherds in the middle of nowhere. He was a Hebrew. He was the 11th son of his father. Not the first son, not the second son, the 11th son. They were nobody in the world at that time. He got kidnapped by his own brothers. He told his brothers that I think God's calling me to be a great leader. And they're like, you're not going to lead us. They got jealous. They kidnapped him. They threw him in a hole in the ground, an empty well. And then they sold him into slavery. Okay, slaves. His life's not getting better. It's getting worse. Kidnapped by your own brothers, sold into slavery, and then he was taken to Egypt. He didn't know Egyptian. He didn't know anybody in Egypt. He's taken as a slave to Egypt. He's working in a house, and eventually because of his skills, because he's close to God, faithful to God, he becomes a successful leader in that house. But the owner of the house, the owner of Joseph, that wife, she tries to seduce him. She wants to have a relationship with him. And he says, no, I can't sin against God. I can't sin against my owner, my master. So she gets mad. What does she do? Even though he's faithful, God doesn't spare him. God doesn't protect him. And she lies about him, says that he tried to rape her, and he gets thrown in prison. What? He's falsely accused. He's put in prison. His life's not getting any better. It's getting worse. It keeps getting worse. It goes from bad to worse yet. Well, then he's in there. He's faithful to God. He's successful as a leader. He gets to know some of the important prisoners in the prison, including one man that had been a cupbearer to the king, to Pharaoh, but was in prison wrongly and awaiting to be released. Well, Joseph did something for that man, and he said, now when you get out, please remember, I'm in here unjustly. I didn't do anything wrong. I'm falsely accused by a jealous woman. The guy said, no problem, I won't forget you. He gets out, he's working for Pharaoh again, forgets all about Joseph. So he's not only in prison, he's stuck in prison. There's no way out. That was his only way out. What's he going to do? His life has gone from bad to worse. Well, God has a time and a place for his plans. Maybe you are in a situation, it seems like, and your job is going from bad to worse. You're doing the right things. You're good at it. You're faithful. You're being faithful to God, and yet it's going from bad to worse. Your ministry, it just seems like you're doing the right things. You're faithful to God, but it's going from bad to worse. Your family, you're doing the right things. You're faithful to God, but it's just going from bad to worse. Hang in there. Don't quit. Joseph stayed faithful to God, and one day, Pharaoh had this dream he couldn't interpret. Nobody could interpret. The cupbearer goes, hey, I know a guy. And he remembered Joseph in prison who could interpret dreams by the grace and power of God. Pharaoh gets Joseph, tells him the dream. Joseph interprets it. And then Joseph gives him a plan. Because it's about regional famine in that area. A plan to store grain for 7 years. And then during the 7 years of famine, they would have 7 years worth of grain to get them through. Pharaoh says, this is the guy. This guy's amazing. He's better than all my other guys. And so in an unbelievable event, this Hebrew 11th son slave who is a prisoner, forgotten in prison, becomes the prime minister of Egypt. And from that position, he's able to save many lives. The people in Egypt, people from the neighboring nations who came to get grain. Egypt is made wealthy as a result. But not only does he save the lives of the Egyptians, but also his own family, the Hebrew nation, his 10 brothers and their father and their family. Actually, he had another brother that came along after him, 11 brothers. Now, those brothers, when they had to get grain, they came to Joseph, and they were sure, well, he's going to kill us because we kidnapped him and sold him into slavery. He makes an astounding statement. In verse 20 of Genesis 50, he says, "But as for you, you meant it for evil against me, but God meant it for good to save many people alive." You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. You realize God had a plan in all of this? He could never become the prime minister of Egypt if he hadn't been in Egypt. He could have never had the skills to be a leader in Egypt if he hadn't been a successful leader in his master's house, a big house, lots of other servants, lots of stuff going on. If he hadn't been a successful leader leading much of what was going on in the prison, trusted by the warden. And he had to be faithful. He stayed faithful to God in the midst of all this. He never got turned on God. He never walked away from God. He never gave up on God. And the cupbearer had to forget him until the right time, right when Pharaoh needed him, the right time, right before the famine, the perfect time. God had all of this in plan. Every piece of this was part of God's plan of preparing him to become a great leader. Maybe you're going through some things and it feels like it's out of control. It doesn't make sense. Trust God's plan because God is perfect. Psalm 75 verse 6 says, promotion ultimately doesn't come from the east or the west or the south. It comes from the Lord. He promotes some and demotes some. He exalts some and demotes some. It ultimately is going to come from God. The promotion of your ministry, the promotion of your business, the promotion of you on your job, the promotion of your family, the elevation of it, it's going to come from God. So stay faithful to God. Keep honing your skills. Keep doing the right thing. And one day, watch and see, God will take everything as evil that's happened to you and turn it all into greater good. That's the God that we serve. I'm Dave Earley. We do this type of teaching every day. I encourage you to follow us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel, share these videos with your friends and family. We want you to grow and learn as much about God as you can because God has a plan for your life.